This project is going to be focused on the corrective exercise continuum for ankle dorsiflexion impingement. So I had surgery, which has severely limited my range of motion. So here's the anterior static posture view. So here you can see that the ankles are in a pretty neutral position. Neither one of them seems to point out in a way that is harmful to my overall posture. Okay, so next we have the lateral view. So again, the feet are in a neutral position. The hips are stable as well and neutral. That's not a hip hike, just the jersey's somewhat flared up, so it gives the impression that it's standing up, but it's not. And then the head is in a neutral position, which is indicated by the ear being above the acromion process of the shoulder. So here's the posterior view. Again, the right foot slightly points out, but we're focusing on the left foot. The hips are in a neutral position, and then the shoulders are good as well. Alright, so here's the overhead squat analysis anterior view. So I struggle greatly with squat type exercises because of my limited range of motion at the ankle, which is demonstrated here. As you can see, there's not much movement at the actual legs. It's more of a bend than an actual squat due to my lack of range of motion. Here you can clearly see that the motion that occurs is more of a lean over as opposed to an actual squat, which is again due to an overall lack of range of motion. Okay, here's the posterior view. So overall, again, a lack of range of motion is observed, but overall the balance is pretty good, but there's just not much movement. So here's a gait analysis walking examination. So here you can see that the shoulders are level at the feet. The right foot slightly points out, but one good thing is that the point of contact with the ground is heel and then to toe, which is what we want. So here's the lateral view of the gait analysis. So one interesting thing to note here is that there is a slight posterior lean, which could possibly be due to weak hamstrings. So further examining that is going to be important to determining how best to move forward here. So the left ankle is the one that we're going to be focused on. So here's range of motion test for ankle dorsiflexion. Normal range is going to be 15 degrees. Here I got a score of 13.5, so not too bad, but overall progress can definitely be achieved. So here's a manual muscle test for the tibialis anterior. So to do this, he's going to stabilize at the shin just above the ankle, and then he's going to pull on the toes or like bottom part of the foot in the direction of plantar flexion. And so I'm going to resist his pull. And then here I got a score of a 5, so there's technically no weakness to report here. So as stated before, the hamstrings could be a possible issue of concern. So here's the manual muscle test for the semimembranosus and semitendinosus. So for this, my foot is going to be everted, and he's going to stabilize at the hamstring and then pull in the direction of knee extension and slightly like towards the direction of eversion for my foot. So I got a score of a 5. So there's no weakness to report here.
5.
And then here's the same test done on the other leg. And so, yeah, this process is exactly the same. So again, I got a score of a 5, so there's no muscle weakness here. A lack of flexion at the knee could also be a possible concern. So here is the goniometer test for knee flexion. Normal range for knee flexion is 130 degrees. I got a score on the left leg of 126, so it's slightly less than the normal value, but not necessarily too concerning that it would be like a direct cause of a lack of range of motion when performing exercises such as the squat. And then here's the same test done on the right leg. So again, normal range is 130. I got a score of 132.5 for the right leg. So slightly higher than the left leg, but again, nothing too concerning here. Continuing up the leg, this is the range of motion test for hip flexion. normal range is 120 degrees. Here I scored a value of 111 for the left leg. So again, slightly under the normal value, but overall not too bad. And then here's the hip flexion goniometer test for the right leg. And then here I scored a value of 103, which is interesting because it's significantly lower than what was found in the left leg. And the left leg is the main leg in question as far as the ankle dorsiflexion weakness goes. Okay, now that the prerequisites are done, moving on to the corrective exercise continuum. The first phase is the inhibiting phase. So if there's a lack of ankle dorsiflexion, then that means that the gastrocnemius and soleus are going to be the muscles that are overactive. So our goal here is to inhibit them through self-myofascial release, and then this will help open up the tibialis anterior. So phase 2 of the corrective exercise continuum is the lengthening phase. So here we are lengthening the gastrocnemius in order to help release it in order to free up the motion of the anterior tibialis. And then here's the same stretch done on the right leg, which is important to do on both to maintain balance between the legs. And then another muscle that can be overactive is the soleus. So here we are working to lengthen it through static stretching. And then here is the same stretch being done on the right leg. So stage 3 of the corrective exercise continuum is the activation phase. So here I am activating the tibialis anterior through the use of resistance bands. And then so the main goal of here is just to strengthen the tibialis anterior in order to aid in the ability to dorsiflex the ankle. Yep. Okay, next we want to activate the gluteus maximus and hamstrings through the glute bridge exercise. The purpose of doing this is because weakness at the ankle joint can affect the rest of the body. So strengthening muscles that are commonly weak is important in order to have overall strength. Alright, and the last phase of the corrective exercise continuum is the integration phase. So the exercise that I have chosen is the wall ball squat. I chose this exercise because, for one, it's a multi-planar movement, meaning it occurs at multiple joints, which is important for strength. But also, the use of the medicine ball during the squat allows for a full range of motion to be achieved, which normally would not be able to have been had if I was simply to do a normal squat. So doing this allows me to work in a full scale range of motion, which is important for just building fundamental strength. And then simple coaching cues for this exercise are going to be just to begin with your feet about hip length apart, with your back straight, and knees in a neutral position, feet slightly everted. And then you're just going to bend down as far as you can go while still maintaining the back straight, really trying to engage the core. And then you're going to slowly come up. And then that is basically the full exercise.